Good morning, college football fans, and welcome to the Saturday morning cocktail kickoff, biggest week of the SEC edition. I'm here with two of my best friends in the world, Mr. Justin Riley from the Bama Standard, a.k.a. the hardest working man on YouTube. How's it going, Justin?
Good guy. I feel like Jim Brown. No. Hey, man, I'm excited. This is arguably the best weekend, SEC-wise, that we've had all year. You talk about college football playoff expansion, it's actually this weekend.
That's right. And Pettey from the Week Zero Sports Podcast, which has been on hiatus for 3 weeks. Sorry, guys, but we'll be back next week. How's it going, Mr. Pettey?
I'm here, man. It's the most exciting week, and my team's not even playing, but I'm here for it. I agree.
It's actually the first time we've ever had a Crimsonette on the show.
Yeah. But hey, that is the best team at Alabama. I'll fight anybody that says anything different.
A male Crimsonette. Man, how does it feel being the trendsetter, the one that broke all the barriers, sir?
Very Texas A&M of you.
Very,
very Yale crew of you, sir.
Very Yale crew, milkman.
Well, I was out last week, guys. Why don't y'all tell me what happened in the world of football in the last 14 days?
Well, for us, we had no anxiety over the last weekend. So we kind of had the opportunity to watch other teams with their anxiety. I enjoyed watching the Ole Miss Rebels handle business down in Aggieland. Thought a little bit closer than I thought that it was going to be. But they pulled out the victory. I think that may have been like the last gasp effort of A&M, you know, in regards to their season. I think they're pretty much done after all the turmoil that is just happening constantly down there. But, hey, you love to watch the crash and burn.
Man, Jimbo's a clown. Calling other people's a clown, but it appears that the mask is on the other face, Jimbo.
Your guy had a little something to say about that last week, right, Pettey? I thought I caught that in the comments.
Yeah, he took it. Man, that's the thing you've got to appreciate most about Kiffin. In a world where coaches more times than not kind of don't show that side to anybody but their team, Kiffin's not scared to answer the question. And someone asks, was it personal? And he's like, yeah, it was. He called me and my buddy Saban a clown. And that's some bullshit. And I wanted to kick his ass, and we did. So, and then he didn't shake my hand. So who's the real clown with all of his 5-star players that he bought?
That was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, just steadily throwing darts. Like, you have all those 5 stars, all this money, and I still kicked your ass in your own stadium, bozo.
Hey, but listen, like I said last week, Pettey, it's not about how many you have. It's about the character of those 5 stars that you recruit. Mm-hmm. And obviously, in regards to those young men, character is not at the top of their list as far as redeeming qualities.
No.
They rich, though.
That's right.
Yeah, they can be. They rich.
Good gracious.
But it stops there.
Well, speaking of rich, what about before we get into football today? Because guys, we're gonna cover this Alabama game with LSU. We're also going to cover the Georgia and Tennessee game in depth. We're looking a lot forward to that one. That's going to be a big matchup today. But before we get into that, let's talk about little brother down in the Plains. What's going on with that coaching search down there, Justin?
Man, interesting turn of events. It actually happened a lot quicker than I thought it would. I mean, going into this season, we knew that Brian Harsin was in a no-win situation. Of course, at Auburn, if you don't beat Coach Saban your first year and get in the playoffs your first year, I mean, you're pretty much on the way out the door. And Auburn has definitely showcased that here. But so Harsin is gone, so is the majority of the staff. But who remains is an Auburn legend. That's Cadillac Williams. He is taking over the reins, and you kind of got to start looking at that situation. May Auburn actually start playing better now that Harsin's out the picture and Cadillac is there? The team loves him. He's a legend. Yeah. And
the two gamblers on the podcast are shaking their head. Take Auburn. Take Auburn.
So I'm kind of curious to see what's going on in the Plains. What kind of Auburn team are we going to see in the next few weeks? Heck, today is day one. Do we see a more inspired, more free Auburn? It's quite possible. I mean, or they could just collapse. Who knows? But I just feel like that things are better for Auburn with Cadillac calling the shots. And, hey, why not even consider him as a candidate? I'm tired of hearing about the Dion to Auburn rumors. I'm tired of hearing about the Lane Kiffin to Auburn rumors. Pettey, I know that you're tired of it, so I don't want to take away your thunder, man. So go ahead and start on that because
Kiffin to Auburn.
He's not going to Auburn.
As long as I don't hear the word Pine Box, I'll be okay in this deal. Right. It's not 1998. And Ole Miss isn't the program it was when it was just kind of, not trying to even compete.
Being ran by Bama's favorite senator.
Yeah, good Lord. It's a different day. Ole Miss has the money. Auburn has revealed itself as a very toxic situation with its boosters. So, and look, I'll be honest. I love Ole Miss. I'm a rebel, but I don't. If Lane Kiffin skips from Mississippi across the borders to Alabama, it's not going to be to Lee County. It's going to be to Tuscaloosa. I think. I mean, if you don't, unless you can't read between the lines, it's pretty obvious Kiffin admires Alabama and covets the Bama job if Saban were to ever leave. And you don't get to Alabama through Lee County. So I think it's a joke. I think it's basically them getting Jimmy Sexton to get Kiffin a raise from Ole Miss, because I don't think he leaves Ole Miss for Auburn right now, because it's not 1998. It's not a step up to go to Auburn anymore. So I'm like you, but it's clickbait, man. Kiffin's a hot name. No, everybody knows you're not stealing Saban from Bama. So who's the next? Kiffin's a hot. Everybody gets clicks if you put his name on the fucking headlines. So
it's the easy thing. They used to always put Saban in the conversation.
That's right.
That was the easy thing to say, and finally they just gave up because it made them look stupid so many times.
And unfortunately, with Ole Miss, we're not Bama. That's always going to be a case with them. So Kiffin's name's always going to come up. But I'm with you, Justin. I'm tired of it. I don't. If you've watched the history of Auburn coaching searches, you know they're not going to hit it out of the park on the first swing anyway.
They're not going to get the stud that they would need to turn the program around, because if they get that alpha dog, that means that the boosters and all the administrators have zero control. And that's what Auburn's problem is right now. And people fail to realize that the money part, the money aspect, which everybody thinks is the trump card in every situation, is going to outweigh that fact. No, Lane Kiffin is not going to go in a situation where he can't run his own team. Deion Sanders is not going to leave Jackson State
where the money flows through Youngwood.
He's not going to leave Jackson State to get more money. Deion doesn't need money at this point, guys. Quit throwing out the whole money part of it. It's not a factor. What, Pettey, you said it best. The biggest thing that these coaches are looking at is the toxicity of the situation. Toxicity will always trump money.
And it's like Auburn's lost sight of what like cultural fits. Reason Ole Miss is working right now is because Lane fits Ole Miss. They've let Lane become the face of Ole Miss. Auburn's not going to do that. And when has Auburn been at their best? When they've had a Pat Dye or a Tommy Tuberville, that guy who goes and rubs elbows with all the boosters and all. They kind of need that good old boy politician. And it's kind of funny because there's one out there that actually strikes fear in the heart of other SEC teams. And it's almost when you bring him up to Auburn fans, they're like, nah, but we want this bigger fish. And that's Hugh Freeze. Like, look.
I'm glad they didn't hire him, or they're not looking at him, to be perfectly honest.
Well, I mean, I know his name is still in the running, but when you – from Auburn people, you don't hear it. It's more Vegas and talking heads, but it's not really Auburn people you hear it coming from. So it's really interesting, man. But it's Auburn. Well, you never know what they'll end up. It's going to be funny when they end up hiring the offensive coordinator or line coach from the coach they fired that's at UCF now.
Well, I think the three of us agree on this, that the best pick for Auburn would be Hugh Freeze.
Yeah, I think absolutely would.
He would bring in 6'4" receivers, a quarterback that can throw the ball, and an aggressive defense, which is exactly what they need. And he also panders a lot, and they need pandering down there.
Yes, he's a cultural fit at Auburn. He's that hokey kind of preachy, y'all give you a slogan, Auburn creed, all that crap they love down there. Man, he fits. And again, I hope they don't get him, because bad news for us.
You also got to look at one thing. Was Coach Saban that prototypical Alabama coach when he came in that rubbed the elbows, all the boosters and all the high-ranking officials of Alabama? No.
He broke them all.
Matter of fact, he came in there and he said, look, if you don't back your ass up from this program, I'm not coming. And honestly, that's what Auburn's going to have to bring in, is an alpha guy who's going to say, sit down. This is my show. I'm running it the way I see fit.
Well, I'll tell you this. We were a lot like Auburn when Saban came to Alabama. Our boosters were running the show, and it took one Mal Moore, who was in the twilight of his career, who was like, you know what? I'm going to make a move that's good so that I go out with a good reputation, because he was a little bit of an elbow rubber for most of his career too. And then he made that break and said, look, we need to win. Let me make my last career move and get Saban in here, and history.
And some Alabama fans will argue about keeping Auburn down. Listen, let's be honest. Auburn being down is not a good thing. No. We want to go back to the battle for the West that used to exist between Alabama and Auburn, where every time we played, something was on the line other than bragging rights. Yeah, Alabama LSU is cool, but it doesn't have the same feel of Alabama Auburn.
I get that. I like them sucking. But
no, I mean, I like them to suck occasionally so you can go in there and whip up on them a little bit. But the fact of the matter is, when they're not good, the rivalry starts to tank. And it takes a lot away from everything that we kind of hold dear around here. So, yeah,
Right.
I want Auburn to be good, just not better than us.
No,
right.
Yeah, just a little less good, right?
You know,
right, yeah.
I like that they, them being mid with the occasional, like New Year's Day bowl, and then go back to the Independence Bowl the next year.
Medium or better. It's a good standard.
Come full circle, though, Justin, back to today. I kind of agree with you. I do think we see a different team with Cadillac.
Agree with me on the show?
I think we see a little more motivated
He's clearly
team.
at Bloody Mary number 2.
I don't think Santa Claus is getting empty. I don't think the team was really behind Harsin. I don't think they believed in him. And like you said, Cadillac's a damn legend. They do believe in him. And one of the things you saw with the Harsin offense was the disappearance of Tank. And Tank's one of the best damn running backs in the SEC. And nobody even talks about him. Sure. Getting Hunter. Man, we don't even know about Ja this year. And he was great last year.
I'm going to touch on this real quick because I know we have a lot to talk about. The fact that they have not done anything with Bigsby is an absolute crime. This guy was in the transfer portal in the offseason, and he came back for this. They have completely ruined what could have been arguably his best year, a year to really get his draft stock up. Now he's got to find some way to salvage it in the midst of all this nonsense.
But see, that's where with Cadillac, you got a running back running the show now. I bet Cadillac sticks with Tank. I bet we see a little bit of a more old school pound 'em Auburn offense today. I don't think they can beat State, especially in Starkville. They're going to go in. It's going to be snare drum loud with those bells ringing. They're going to be pumped because they know. And State's got a pretty good squad, and they've been real good at home. But I do think Auburn can murk this up today and make it ugly for State.
Right.
Just ugly enough to cover.
Yeah, just ugly enough to keep it in that 13.5. And that's what's really important in these games.
Well, look, guys. We've covered Auburn. They get it. Let's move on to something exciting, okay? And before all the Bama fans bail, we're going to do end of the show. We're going to hit Bama and LSU in depth. That's our closer, right? But we want to jump into probably the premier game of the year right now. Can we say that? This is the game of the century for 2022, right?
This is biggest game in the SEC regular season since Bama, LSU, and Tuscaloosa. The 9-6 game, right?
2011, right?
The offensive juggernaut that is the Tennessee Volunteers heading over to Athens, where they bark at you. All right, this is going to be a violent clash of fan bases. I don't even care what happens on the field. I want to see the fights outside the stadium.
Me too.
These fan bases are both batshit crazy. I was talking with my wife about this last night. What happens in the stands when these two people get together?
Yeah. Fireworks, buddy.
I like
Not the kind you saw at Neyland Stadium either.
No.
Hey, but a side note, gentlemen, people in the audience, I don't know if you know this, but Hendon Hooker has actually struck an NIL deal with French's Mustard because of what happened last year against Ole Miss, and now he has a pair of mustard shoes, French's themed mustard shoes. And I got to admit, guys, they're kind of dope.
Sign me up.
I'm never buying another bottle of French's mustard again for the rest of my life. And I've been a French's man since birth. They all taste the same anyway. Fuck French's. I'm out of here.
Look, I'm a capitalist. Our boy Nick Pantez, I know, is fully on board with this side of the NIL. He's talked about that big kicker that plays for, is it Missouri, that has the huge kicker? He said he'd be eating donuts from Krispy Kreme every time they showed him warming up. He gets them in NIL. So I got to give credit for the creativity here, man. I like the mustard. NIL.
One more question: how long before we get a Hendon Hooker themed vape pen? Because I'm in the market for one of those.
There we go. The vape pens were hitting the field too.
Golf balls all over. I bet there's not a golf ball in Knoxville that doesn't have Hendon Hooker's face on it at this point.
maybe the vape pen be sponsoring Hyatt. Who knows?
All right,
I would be selling this one.
Well, anyway,
cheap.
Enough nonsense. Let's talk about the game. Justin, first off, you're the real expert here on the show. Why don't you give us your kind of breakdown, offense versus defense of both teams, and tell us who you think's got the edge, man?
Listen, I don't know if I'm so much an expert, although I do hang out around a lot of experts throughout the week, every week. So, I'll associate with those guys. It makes me look good, right? But one thing I want to start off with, guys, does this not have the same feel of that 2009 Alabama versus Florida matchup, where the previous year Alabama got beat by Florida, not because Florida was that much better, it's just because Alabama wasn't quite ready to take that big stage and get that big win. But then the next year, they were ready for that moment. Is that where we are with Tennessee right now? Last year, they had pretty much the same players coming back, right? But I don't think they were quite ready for success yet. So Georgia was able to come away with that victory on the road in Neyland. This year, I kind of had that Florida, Alabama vibe, but with these guys right here, is this the time for Tennessee to knock Georgia off the throne and take that title of the East?
Look,
Who knows? They haven't experienced this kind of level of success since 1998. How do I know that? Well, they've already printed up T-shirts. The fan base has saying feels like 1998. So they're already claiming their championship. So I hope in their case they win today so that those T-shirts can be good for at least another week. But who knows?
Well, look, I think you're kind of right here. And it took me a long time in 2019 to come around on LSU because they kind of flashed, boom, here they are on the scene. Nobody can stop this offense. And you kind of want to be skeptic about that. But as a Bama fan, it's really hard for me to say this, but this team has a very LSU 2019 vibe to it, man.
Better coaching with Coach.
With better coaching, yeah.
And Heupel is look, he's done it back. I mean, multiple weeks in a row, even when it's been put on paper, making mismatches with his receivers and getting Hyatt on safeties. And I mean, he did it to y'all and then did it 3 times to Kentucky. I mean, so he's obviously they're masters at disguising this. I agree with y'all. This offense is a rolling ball of knives right now, and it's heading into a place that's.
I feel like it's Lane Kiffin and Gus Malzahn crashing together at the playbook, guys. I mean, it is like it's got that Gus run 3 plays in a row vibe where you just can't freaking stop it, and it's also got that Lane somebody's going to be wide open vibe. I mean, it's good.
Speaking of wide open, guys, the thing is Tennessee has been without its receivers for the most of the year, except for Hyatt. Now everybody's back and healthy again. So how crazy can that offense get with all their receivers back in place?
And with
Georgia can handle that.
Well, and with Nolan Smith being out, that gives, that's your biggest edge rusher, giving Hooker a little more time to connect with those guys. And I question if Tennessee hops out like they did against Alabama and like they do in most games against they did in LSU.
Everybody.
Georgia and Stetson Bennett have the ability, the way their offense is built to catch up in a game like that. They're not built like Bama. They're more of a pound you. They're more of their defense gets your offense off kilter than they take a ball control offense and keep your offense on the sideline. And that's Georgia's key to doing this. But if they can't, I question, can they even keep up with the way Bama was able to come back?
I mean, dude, with 50 years of combined life experience between the 2 starting quarterbacks, there's nothing we couldn't see.
Yeah, I mean, it's I talked about this in my article. Could you imagine Tua and Burrows playing later tonight in Death Valley? Because that would be about the same age-wise. I mean, imagine Tua playing college football right now. How good he would be. I mean, nuts good. That's the thing about Stetson.
Don't make me think that.
I think Hooker's good. Stetson, I don't know, man.
Hooker's head and shoulders above Stetson. That shows up in
question.
Every single metric, including the eye test, guys. Let's just face it. Stetson's there because he's old. Hooker's there because he finally got a good system.
Yeah. Hooker's a player.
But he also has a coach that's been able to develop him within that system. So you're seeing the total package now of what Hooker can be. And it's freaking amazing. I mean, hey, he's leading the Heisman race for a reason, guys. I'm a believer in what he's able to do.
You realize his QBR record rating is 30 points higher than any other SEC quarterback right now. I mean, he's 40 touchdowns and 1 interception. I know it's not 40 touchdowns, but it's like 20 something and 1 interception. His numbers are just really good. And then, I mean, again, it's the system, the players. He's got receivers. But here's where I'm going to have to throw a little water on this. And I know I got my Vols buddy watching. There's a reason that line's 8.5. Everybody's talking about the Vols. All the money is on the Vols. Nobody's talking about the defending national champions who are playing at home today, by the way.
And this should scare Tennessee fans because Vegas generally knows things that we don't know. And having Georgia come in as a 12 or a 13-point favorite at the beginning when this line dropped seemed just insane. It's the WTF line of the century, pretty much, right? I mean, this is one of the most just efficient offenses that we've seen in years, right? And they're coming into a Georgia team, and we haven't gotten to this side yet, guys. Now it's time to talk about that Georgia defense. I'm going to throw you a couple quick bones out there. Number one, Georgia has played a schedule that ranks in strength with Ohio State, if you know what that means. All right. If you don't know what that means, go take a look at Ohio State's schedule. That doesn't mean they're not good, guys. You can play crappy teams and still be good. But the one weakness that I've seen on Georgia, and it's been for the last few years, and it's the same weakness we had when Kirby Smart was at Alabama, is they play very aggressive and it makes them weak over the top. And very few teams can expose that weakness. But there's one coming to Athens this week that can.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. You saw what happened when Alabama had two receivers that could expose it last year in the SEC championship game. This is a lot like that animal, guys.
I agree. I was just about to bring that up. And yeah, the thing is, though, Georgia, has not played a schedule worth a damn. They've beaten one ranked team to Tennessee's 5.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Georgia didn't look impressive in those wins. When you're playing against less than opponents, the scoreboard should reflect total domination. And other than against Auburn, I didn't really see it. Yeah, they pulled away late against Florida. Well, yeah, Oregon, but Oregon has resurged, but there hasn't been clear domination. Matter of fact, there's been times where you question whether or not they were going to pull it off. And were they even motivated at times?
That's the thing. I don't know if it's not because they dominate. I'm not sure how motivated you are when you're playing a schedule that's as weak as that. It's hard to get up. Look, it's hard to get these kids motivated to go play teams they know they're going to sleepwalk through and beat by 20, because let's be real. I know we're talking about them not blowing teams out. They're 7-1 against the spread this year. I mean, they're doing what they're supposed to against the number. But again, the eye test, it doesn't pass, because like you said, when they played Samford, they sleepwalked through. The one game they didn't cover was up at Missouri, and they almost lost the damn thing. And that one really sticks in people's mind.
I'm glad you said that. What was the key there? They were going up against a coach that is way better than his players in that situation. We have to give credit to Drinkowitz out there. He's the guy from App State. If you guys don't know about that, he's a hell of a coach, and he has made Missouri a formidable team, and they are getting better every single game if you've been watching them. So, you know, when Georgia runs up against a coaching situation, sometimes they get handled. And look, Heupel so far is a hell of a coach.
Oh, the biggest knock on Kirby's is in-game coaching. I think he won last year I don't want to go to the injury route, but injuries and he just had so much damn talent on that defense. But Kirby's made some very questionable in-game decisions in very big situations. I always go back to the Justin Fields fake punt. That's one of my favorite, because it was one of the most questionable things against a guy.
Hold on, or the Justin Fields not being the starting quarterback.
Justin Fields not being the starting quarterback.
Right.
Wow. Look, man, they're a national power. They won the national title, but a lot of that's default of just my Jimmies are better than your Joes and things working out. I mean, he lost a lot of those games before because he wasn't making the right decisions. And again, I'm sold on Heupel. Heupel's a hell of a coach, man. He's done this in Tennessee in 2 years. And look, Tennessee is the next Alabama, the winningest program in the history of the SEC. There's history there. It's one of those teams, and I say that because when Alabama was down, it took one right coach to resurrect it. And when Saban got there, damn it, they were good again. Tennessee's missed 3 or 4 times, and it's been years of malaise, and he's done it in 2. So it shows you that that Tennessee has the ability to get back off the mat with the right coach, and he's probably the right guy. I said it in our first show of the year. I think this is the year Tennessee rocks the boat and ends up in the SEC championship. I guess I shouldn't back down now, even though Vegas is screwing with my head completely.
I mean, in our podcast, that was one of the preseason bets that I told everyone to take, and take the damn bet. I was like, you need it. And I had the wool pulled over my eyes by this Levis crap at Kentucky or whatever. But I said, either take Kentucky or Tennessee. They're both 25-1 bets. And and Tennessee wins this game, I'm going to cash in. Go Vols.
We were high on the Vols at the beginning of the season. I don't want to. I shouldn't. I mean,
but what's the big but in this, Pettey? Because there's a huge but in this, and it's like 3/4 of the way across the country out west in a bright, shiny town with lots of lights and lots of money. What's the but?
But Vegas, and I hate to be this guy. I hate that I'm just not a pure football fan, and I just go with what I see and go with my heart. But I'm sorry, I've done the gambling thing for too long, and I've been out and seen the twinkly lights. I know how big it is and how grand it is, and I know they don't pay for that shit with their own money. And when something stinks in Vegas, there's a reason.
When it's ever too easy. All right, too easy. Tennessee getting 13 points. That's too fucking easy, guys.
And if you've listened to this show, man, this is a whitewash. Tennessee's the better team. They're better coached. They've battle tested. They've answered it. Look, we've wanted to, everybody is, until they got the number 1 ranking this last week, Tennessee was being questioned every step of the way if this was legit. Before the Alabama game, oh, well, LSU's a trap. They got to go to Death Valley. We're going to see if they're for real. They won 40-13 or 17 or whatever. All right, now they're playing Bama. They haven't beat those bastards in 16 years. Can they get over that hump? Nope, can't do it. What beat Bama? Very next week, well, you beat Bama. They're probably going to sleepwalk through this game. Oh, he scored 52 points in the first half and took their starters out. Next week, they're playing Kentucky ahead of this Saturday. Oh, well, this is a trap. They're looking for the biggest game in their history, and they beat the shit out of Kentucky. Man, they've answered every question. So that's why, like I said, man, it's mind-blowing as to why this game, the line's 8.5 or 9 now. It started at 13 before it just went crazy. What do they know, man? What are those bastards know?
There's some data to look at here, and I don't trust it because, again, Tennessee's played one of the hardest schedules in the country, and Georgia is down there with Ohio State at like number 70, right? They've had 1 or 2 challenging games at all this year. But in the metrics, when you're looking at power rankings and things, they're both top 10 offense, done. Georgia's a top 10 because they control the ball, control the clock, and all that. Tennessee's a top 10 because they'll score on your ass on any play, right? On the other side, we've got a top 10 power rank defense and a number 80 on the Tennessee side. So if there's any equalizer in this game, it's Tennessee's defense. Now, let's say this one thing. Tennessee can stop the run, and that's what Georgia likes to do. Tennessee can absolutely stop the run. Their front seven's fantastic. Their back 4 or 5, whatever, not so much. Can Stetson Bennett expose that? And that's what I'm worried about because I don't know if he's the kind of quarterback that can get the ball downfield like that. What do you guys think?
Well, 2 things, and I'll start with offense since you just talked about it. When they shut down Brock Bowers, who was Georgia going to look to be that home run player? You look at their wide receiver list. They don't have that home run threat. No disrespect to Lad McConkey, but he's not that. He's not it. He's not somebody who's going to scare the defensive backs into peeing down their legs. Just not going to happen. So who is going to be the other guy? Yes, they're good. They're tight ends, but Dinkin and Duncan's not going to work. Their money is in their backfield. They got some guys who can wear you out. They got a 3-headed monster, and one of those 3-headed monsters is a fantastic freshman from right here in Canton, Mississippi. Branson Robinson, dude's a freaking load. But that 3-headed monster can wear you out, and you can run against Tennessee. Alabama was able to, but for whatever reason, Bill O'Brien decided to go away from that. I'm not going to get into that tangent. But where is Georgia going to find the offense? Yeah, if it gets into a shootout, they don't have those dudes.
Can I tell
the other
you
side of the ball? One second. Other side of the ball, what I'm looking at is, can Georgia do something that Alabama was not able to do, and that is get Hendon Hooker's jersey dirty. Put him on the ground. Can they generate that pass rush and disrupt some things and cause him to make some bad decisions? Even though Florida lost to them, the game was close because they were able to get to the quarterback. So can Georgia do that? Nolan Smith is out. So who's going to be that next alpha that steps up for him? Those are the 2 things I'm looking at.
I have a feeling they've probably got another one. It feels like Georgia just has a stack of them, kind of like we do, ready to get in there. And like the guy gets his first chance, he's going to play double super hard. But I'm going to question one thing you said at the very beginning of that story. You said when they shut down Brock Bowers. I'm not sure that that's ever happened. So like it seems like a fantasy to shut down Brock Bowers. I mean, if they can't throw it to him, they'll hand it off.
Can't rephrase, maybe limit his craziness.
Maybe.
Well, and it kind of lends to the point they don't have any outside threat. So as good as Bowers is, when a tight end like that is really dangerous, is because you've also got an outside threat and you can't key on one or the other. But when your tight end is your number 1 target, it's easier to bracket over the middle than it is to the outside.
Especially for Tennessee because they're strong in the front 7, right? And that's who's going to be handling that Brock Bowers situation. Now, on the other hand, when Brock Bowers goes deep, like what are they going to do? Once you get past the linebackers, Tennessee has absolutely nothing back there. And they can make mediocre receivers look good if the quarterback can get them the ball. And that's going to be the big if. Is Steady, as his 17 years of experience got him the arm to get it down the field? That's the question.
That's a good question.
After 17 years, you'd think he'd find a way.
Yeah, some steroids or something.
Eddie Stetson.
And congratulations to Steady's NIL deal with AARP.
Feel bad I didn't think of that one after all my Steady hammering. My Uncle Steady and Aunt Kirby story. For anybody who doesn't listen to the Week Zero Sports and Other Stuff podcast, take a listen. We love to make fun of the octogenarian quarterbacks in the SEC.
No doubt. So, guys,
all right, guys.
Let's get a score.
Yeah. Are we throwing out predictions on this thing? Are we going to do that?
Yeah, let's go ahead and man. We got the viewers here. That's what they came for. Who's going to win this Clash of the Titans?
All right, Pettey, Justin.
Go. Okay, I'll start. Man, I'm going back to how I opened this segment. The resemblance of the 2009 SEC Championship, Alabama versus Florida. Alabama finally knocking off the Giant. Is Tennessee ready for prime time? Are they back? They have the guys, but can they conquer the monster across the way? I think that Tennessee does, just because I think they just have way too many weapons for Georgia to contend with. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be an absolute war, but I just think that the Vols are ready for prime time this year, and they edge out. I say Tennessee wins 31-28.
That low of scoring?
Yeah.
Ooh, I was thinking if Tennessee scores 35 or less, they lose. That's kind of my guess. I mean, I can see two distinct scenarios here, guys. And the one that my brain says is Tennessee goes in there and Georgia can't do anything with their over-the-top attack. And Tennessee wins this thing 10 points in the end, okay? But just like my friend Pettey down there, when I look at Vegas, I look at the numbers, they don't throw away money, guys. There is a reason for them throwing that line out there at 12.5 points. They believe there's something in that Georgia defense that can slow this offense, or they think that Georgia might have some good home cooking lined up. You never know about that home cooking stuff, guys. So that's
referees matter in the SEC.
And despite my analysis telling me that Tennessee is a 10-point favorite team in this, you guys write this down, 10-point favorite. I think Tennessee should win this game by 10.
Absolutely.
I think the final score is 49-37 UGA.
Okay. That leaves you, sir.
Man, I hate right now. I know I've got a Tennessee buddy watching, and I've been bullish on Tennessee since the beginning of the season. I'm a huge fan of Heupel. I'm a fan of the offense. I'm a fan of everything we've talked about today. Why I would be leaning that way. I told myself that I would not let Vegas influence me this week on this game. I said, Daniel, you're not going to do it. I've completely let Vegas influence the hell out of me because, like Michael, we've talked about, man, they know what the hell they're doing. Shit.
It's a WTF of all times, guys.
Vegas, dude, Daniel Pettey's heart says 42-24 Tennessee. Vegas tells me, God, I can't give two picks. That's fucking insane. Vegas tells me the score Michael just gave, like something 42-28, 42-31.
I think Tennessee Georgia getting under 35 points is just that's a fantasy, y'all. Tennessee's going to get their 35.
Yeah. Tennessee's going to score, and that's why I think they keep this a game. Damn it.
And look, guys, I'm going to make a lot of cash.
42-38 Tennessee. We have a reenactment of the alien eyebrow Josh Dobbs Hail Mary. Fuck it.
Love it. And again, Brain says Tennessee wins this game. Just want everybody to know. For some reason, the pocketbook says take Georgia. Just weird. I'm going to slide too, so keep that in mind. All right, guys.
Shit, I'm torn.
Well, speaking of gambling, why don't we touch on a little bit of gambling picks before we jump into this Alabama thing?
Big matchup on the Bayou.
For anybody that doesn't know, that doesn't follow Week Zero Sports and Other Stuff podcast, our boy Pettey has been nothing but a freaking explosion on fire this year. His picks have been golden, and mine haven't been too bad either. I think we're probably 65-70%, which is unheard of. So, Pettey, as the leader in the clubhouse, I'm going to let you kick this off.
Yeah, man, boy, setting me up for failure this week. I hope I don't just sling out an 0-3, but man, we have been hot. So even if it is an 0-3 and you've been riding me, I've won you some money this year, and I can't feel too bad about it. But I feel good about this week. I like these picks. TCU at home, the line is dropped to -8. However, the money is all over Texas Tech. They're underdog darling this week out in Vegas, and we've talked a lot about those lights. TCU is a hell of a team if you've been watching them. Every week, team, they people keep expecting them to get upset and get knocked out of the undefeated ranks. I don't think it happens this week. I actually think this is a solid win. I think they blow Texas Tech out today, take TCU -8.
They're also playing the
Petty,
chip on
that
their
is
shoulder too.
that's a strong call because me, analytics guy, I look at how people are in efficiency. TCU, one of the highest ranked offensive efficiency teams in the country.
Yeah, they're going to score today. I was
saying is that they're playing the chip on their shoulder too because they feel slighted due to the playoff rankings here this week.
Absolutely.
So that's something to consider.
These playoff people, the funny thing about them is they kind of just put the teams that are going to play each other up there because they know one will get knocked out, makes for drama, blah, blah, blah. Don't get too butthurt about where you land in the first playoff.
Yeah, LSU bumping up to number 10.
Right. Exactly, because it makes for great
made
TV.
Made that TV ranking look a little bit better. My second game is possibly nuts and maybe some just I watched this team recently bias. But last week, Texas A&M unveiled one of their several $1 million 5-star freshman against Ole Miss, and that's that quarterback in Whitman. That kid's actually a player. It kind of makes you question why the hell Jimbo's waited so long to pull the trigger on bringing him out. He looked pretty good against Ole Miss, but look, let's face it, Ole Miss is a better team. They're a much better team than Florida. Florida has struggled to beat in the games they've won. They've struggled to win at home against anybody they played, and the other ones they've just lost. They're going on the road to A&M. I don't like this offense against A&M's defense. Look, man, for all A&M's faults, they kept playing last Saturday night against Ole Miss. They haven't quit on that clown Jimbo. This may be insane to take A&M, but I'm on A&M -1.5. I think this quarterback gets it done. I think their defense shuts down Florida. I do like Napier, but I think Florida's still got a lot of damn holes to fix from Mullen, and it's going to be shown out, and Jimbo is going to get one of his wins this week.
This strikes me as odd considering your disdain for the Yale crew all year.
That's where I hope that makes it show that I'm throwing away biases and looking more at the X's and O's because I saw what I saw last week. Look, man, if you look at A&M's front seven, they look like a top 3 team. They've got dudes. It's just coaching them. And again,
they held Bama to 19 points, man.
Yeah. Look, so I don't think Florida's very good is where this is going. I think they're a lot lesser, and they're going to Aggieville. Those fans show up regardless if they're 0-11 and 11-0. So it's going to be loud and excited, and I expect them to beat Florida. So I actually think that's a pretty safe pick.
Hey, another interesting aspect, Florida's defense is already horrendous to begin with, but they actually just kicked off arguably one of their best players on the defense, and it's Brenton Cox.
Oh, they kicked Cox off?
Yeah, he's gone.
Lock it down. A&M's a lock, man. Fuck that. I'm all about it. Go Faggies. Oh,
here's the deal. If I see Pettey saying anything good whatsoever about the Texas A&M Aggies, you better take that shit to the bank because this dude right here hates them. Like lots of hate everywhere. It's terrible, terrible Texas A&M.
Sorry for that community. Yeah. Go dude cheerleaders. All right, last pick. Man, when you're on a smooth train, you don't hop off. And Brett Bulimia is a smooth ass train right now up at Illinois. I know Michigan State kind of Michigan, but
he just got canceled.
Oh man, I think there are some Bulima fans in the interwebs cutting off your talk. You're gonna have to start over.
What happened?
You got hacked.
You got hacked into, sir.
Oh, okay. Well, Brett, I'm going with
Nation
Brett.
Took you down.
Good Lord, yeah, I might have said something. Sorry, Aggie Nation. Y'all hacked me after that last comment. Truth hurts. Anyway, Illinois. I like them -16. I know that's a big number. It's Sparty. Sparty is not very good. They're going to Illinois. Man, keep riding the Bulimia train until they buck you. Illinois -16.
Rock and roll. I've got a couple, but I don't know if I should even tell them because I've been on such a slide, but I think it's time to turn it around, right? I'm going to go. It's funny that I have a Bulimia connection in my first pick. I'm going to go back to Arkansas for my first pick of the week, guys. I've got the Liberty Hugh Freezers heading into Arky, and now that all of his, I guess the fanfare around him going to Auburn has kind of cooled down a little bit. I don't know if he's as motivated as he was a week or two ago. Also, Arkansas is an SEC team, and they're playing Liberty, guys. You might want to jump on this one. 14.5, that's a lot. If you can get it below 14, probably saves your ass a little bit. Might be 25. I say take the Razorbacks at home. They're looking to get back on the Hey, can you make that a Bloody Mary number 3 for me, Justin?
Made one.
Hey, another
Pettey,
thing
I
to
know that
consider.
you're a big Hugh Freeze aficionado, and you know a lot about Liberty. You've been following them. Am I off base on this one?
No, I like this. Look, man, Freeze is a great coach, but this is one of the that he just doesn't have the bullets in the gun. They played Ole Miss last year. He even had a better quarterback in Malik Willis and couldn't keep it close. They're going to go up to Arkansas. Like Justin mentioned earlier, Jefferson's a good quarterback. And when that kid's healthy, that Arkansas offense is just tough to get off the field. Briles is a great offensive coordinator. Liberty's not going to have the defensive guns to stop Arkansas from scoring 40 or 50 points today. As good as Freeze is a coach, he can't keep this one in that number. I like this.
And if you watched Arkansas last week, they were able to dismantle Auburn, and you're like, okay, everybody dismantled Auburn. But they did so banged up. Matter of fact, the week leading up to that game, I don't think they played in pads the entire week just because of how physically beat up they were. They're getting more and more healthy as the days progress, and they're beginning to look like that true Arkansas team that we saw coming into this season. And KJ Jefferson is that dude.
Yeah. All right, cool. I love it. So I've got buy-in. Maybe I'm not that crazy this week, guys.
Yeah.
Moving on to my second game, and this one comes from a rule that I made after about week 4. And I was watching the Clemson Tigers play somebody, and Uwe Unga interception was shit in the bed like he always does out there, right? And all of a sudden, they kind of got a lead, and they put in their backup quarterback, all right? And this kid tosses dimes, dude. Everything he lets go of is right where it's supposed to go. He's damn good. He's Trevor Lawrence-esque, if not better, with the arm. I don't know if he can run that good. The dude's good. So I said on that day, any line that Clemson gets that's under 7, I'm taking it, because no matter what happens at the end of the game, they can put that kid in and put up 2 touchdowns like that. This Notre Dame game is going to be full of that home cooking stuff we're talking about. If there's any team in the world that gets a good home field advantage, it's the Fighting Irish. They got God on their side. So be careful on this one, but I think Clemson runs away with this shit, y'all. I think Clemson -4 is a shoe-in. I think this is one of those Vegas mind fucks, and I think you guys should be all over Clemson. This is a WTF. This is one of our classic WTFs where you should take Notre Dame, all right? But I'm going against it because anything with Clemson under 7, until they get to the playoffs, I'm taking it.
Sounds good.
Tell me, Pettey, why is that wrong?
You're a man of principle, so I plead the 5th.
No, I want to hear it. Run it in the ground.
No, because I actually battled your principle and what we just talked about in the Tennessee-Georgia game. Look, Michael's right. If the line's like 13 or 14, Clemson can't do it because ukulele is just not good enough to beat the shit out of teams. But they are good enough to beat everybody by 7. And if he's not getting it done like they did a few weeks ago, they're going to bring in. And at some point, I'm going to remember that kid's weird-ass last name that's the backup freshman for Clemson, who is a really good quarterback. But they're going to bring him in, and they're going to win by just enough. However, like Michael said, this is a WTF line. 50% of the bets are on Clemson. 75% of the money's on Clemson. Notre Dame's at home. It's only 3.5. They seem to get things going last week against Syracuse on the road. And it's in touchdown Jesus land. If anybody gets calls in all of college football, Notre Dame gets calls. But I mean, that's you can death taxes and Notre Dame screwing some teams up in South Bend, Indiana. So I don't know, Michael. I understand, like, your principle. You got to stand on principle, and your principle is
undefeated since the day we announced it.
Right? So you got to go.
I mean, like when the day that we figured that out, it's undefeated all year, as a matter of fact. So. Yeah. That's what you got to roll with as far as I'm concerned.
Look,
so
how does Notre Dame score on Clemson's defense? Because Notre Dame's not a great passing team. Running is how they got going against Syracuse, and Clemson got a great front 7. So if you're really looking at X's and O's, I don't know how Notre Dame scores on Clemson. And like you said, at the end of the game, Clemson's offense always seems to get enough to push them over. So I do feel like Clemson's the play.
Clemson's the play. It just feels weird. It's like that Tennessee's the play, but it feels weird with Georgia. I'm going to go 1-1. Watch me go backwards on this. Watch Notre Dame cover and Tennessee cover. That'd be great. Perfect ending to this season.
Them boys in the desert are playing Jedi mind tricks
so
right
good.
now.
They're so
good at what they do.
Let's move on to the next one. And this one will be a shocker to anybody who's been listening to me talk on the podcast or anything all year. But I have seen a Kentucky Wildcat team that has lost a little bit of their confidence, and they're running into that coach I mentioned earlier, Mr. Eli Drinkowitz down there at Missouri Tigers, who are an up-and-coming team. And Pettey, I mentioned this mentioned this to you before the podcast. They remind me a lot of that Ole Miss defense that was not doing very well a couple years ago. They had the people in position, but they were getting run over because they just didn't have the Jimmies and Joes, as you said.
Yeah.
Missouri's kind of making their way up, but it's the same situation. Incredibly well coached, incredibly in place, but they get beat sometimes because they're not as good. They're going up against a UK team that has lost their confidence. I think you take Missouri this week, guys.
I'm 100% with you. And Missouri is a team that if you've watched them, man, they should have beat Auburn, but just their running back fumbles going in the end zone and they miss a wacky ass field goal. They're
Georgia all they can handle.
They're a team, like Michael said, they're really well coached, but they just don't have many bullets in the gun. But on the flip side, they keep getting better each week and they kind of keep believing. And they're going against a team that's going in the exact opposite direction, who had all these lofty expectations. They were going to be the team with Tennessee to possibly compete with Georgia this year. Kentucky has been since Stoops has been there for the last 4 or 5 years, a really good club, and they've actually taken a step back this year. I thought Stoops, this may be the one year that kind of got Stoops' attention and says, if I can't do it with Levis and the team I had,
please don't go to Auburn.
It's probably time for me to find somewhere I can get it done. And so with that said, you're seeing two programs going in different directions. One that maybe doesn't have the bullets, but they kind of care and really want to do it today and they're at home, versus one that's broken now.
Nobody wants to bite at Missouri for the rest of the year. I promise you that. Tennessee's going to play them later. They're better than them. They don't want that bite. I'm telling you. Missouri, look out for that team. And that's your pick 3 times 2 from the week 0 kids. We've got Pettey's, TCU, Texas A&M, and Illinois. And you've got Clemson, Mizzou, and Archie.
Write it down. 6-0.
Make that money. And Justin,
yes, sir.
Now it's your time, buddy.
You're back just in time.
We're finally to the premiere feature of this show.
Yeah, the whole reason why we're here. Hey, listen, before we move to that next important segment that we all have waited so anxiously for, if you're still here, hit that like and subscribe button. Also, man, let us know what you think in the chat and the comments. If you're watching the replay, Alabama versus LSU.
Crimsonettes versus Golden Girls.
Corn dogs.
Is that not what we're
Normally, this is the most anticipated game the entire season, but it's being overshadowed by what's going on in Athens. However, it does not take away for the importance of this game. Like I said earlier, you know, we're looking at the playoff situation, must win for both teams. Alabama wins, they get to survive to the next round and face waiting Ole Miss in the wings.
Yeah.
So the path is not going to be easy. If LSU, God forbid, comes away with a victory, they're in the driver's seat to Atlanta. So a lot to be looking at. But listen, we got a lot of things to look at right now. And one of those things I want to lead off with from a clip from our show this week, and this is something that Bo Scarborough wanted to deliver to our team.
My eyes are going to be on that tunnel.
Which set?
Both sets will be on the tunnel.
I don't like you, sir.
With the team comes out the tunnel, I want to see, is there any fear in their face? Literally. Because I want to see, are the mouths moving? Is the hair on fire? Are they ready to play some real football?
Yeah.
Because after hearing your leader against Tennessee, Will Anderson, we maybe had some anxiety. You ain't trying to hear that again. So I'm going to watch Will. I'm going to watch Bryce. I'm going to watch Jordan Battle. All these guys on this council that they have on here, how are their eyes looking coming out this tunnel?
Hey man, if I'm Will Anderson and the leader of that team, when I'm telling them boy before they walk out on that field, if you got anxiety, you need to stay your ass in the locker room. Hey man, I want dogs behind me, and we ain't on no away game. This is our field. We got to go out there and show them that we the big dog. Y'all our little brother. This Marvin mindset that we got to put in, that we got to put into them boys.
Man. Powerful words from Bo Scarborough. Michael, I hate that you missed that entire clip.
I saw it all.
Okay, but essentially, Bo hit on the anxiety issue, which, you know, I don't want to keep going to that well, but it's something that's been on the minds of Bama fans for a few weeks now. We're going into LSU. This is a place where You do not need to have an off game where you don't need to come in there claiming anxiety. We got to create that anxiety, which Alabama teams of the past are known for creating that anxiety. This is where Alabama needs to dictate the flow of the game. Be disciplined. Don't come in there like you did in Neyland Stadium with all those penalties. You got to put away LSU immediately. Guys, if you watch LSU the past several weeks, while they are the most improved team in the SEC and one of the best in the nation, they are resurging. They are not a complete team. They will often collapse in the first half of every game. They have yet to play 4 quarters, and God forbid they play 4 quarters today, because if they do, it's going to be a war as we are typically accustomed. Mm-hmm. But we've got to allow them to self-destruct, and when they self-destruct, put our foot on their throat and keep driving. Do not make any mistakes, because where LSU ends up getting back into games is when teams make mistakes. That's where they make their living. It's not that LSU can out-scheme you or out-athlete you, although they do have some dudes on their side of the field. They just know how to capitalize off of mistakes. And, Pettey, you're familiar with that. You watched your Rebels go down off of critical mistakes and allowed LSU to get in a roll. And when you get on a roll, or LSU gets in a roll in Voodoo Land, Tiger Stadium, it's hard to derail that train. So Alabama, and this is our first point, don't let LSU hang around. Put them out quickly, fellas.
I think you hit a good point, Justin. And look, man, Alabama, as much as the mystique of Death Valley's there, but this is a place where Saban hasn't lost. Alabama's won 10 of the last 11 games against LSU by an average of 13 points. As big of a game this is, it's also a series that Nick Saban and Alabama have really taken care of. But you hit on a good point about the crowd noise. 2 times this year, LSU has been in games that they probably, were underdogs and could have lost to Mississippi State and Ole Miss. And key things happened where State fumbled a punt, Ole Miss throws misses a touchdown, the crowd comes alive, and all of a sudden it's a different ball game in Baton Rouge. And Alabama, as good as they are and great as they are, has shown the propensity to struggle in loud road environments this year. We saw it in Texas. We saw it at Tennessee. Lane Kiffin completely illustrated why the biggest interception of the game against Ole Miss was completely attributed to crowd noise at Death Valley. So it is a real factor. So I agree wholeheartedly. As a Bama fan, as Alabama, you've got to come out and take that crowd out of it immediately.
In addition, all right, there have been a lot of teams that have gone down to Baton Rouge, I guess 2 this year, who have jumped out to big leads. One of them was Tennessee Volunteers. They put their foot on their throat and put them down and ended it. It didn't matter how much beer you were selling at 9:30 a.m. in Rouge. They fucking ended it. And that's what we've got to do. It's not 9:30 a.m. It's not 11 o'clock game this week. We're going to be playing at night. The Coonasses are going to be well inebriated. It's going to be wild. So if we don't get out and we don't put them down early, this will be a long game. Having said that, I think we've learned our lesson. And when we were in Tennessee, we did have issues with the crowd, but they were way less than they were earlier in the year. You notice we were getting the ball off with 10, 15 seconds left on the play clock, which we were not doing when we were getting our asses shaked by Texas A&M, or excuse me, Texas. So this is one of those games that could be a blowout Bama, or it could be a close game down to the end. Now, Bama fans out there, don't worry. We're going to come out with this W. But let's hope it's the easy one.
Yeah,
I think
I agree.
For you guys,
it's their offense. It's the LSU offense that we're equipped to stop. Okay,
yeah,
and that's what gives me confidence.
Well, and look, what has propelled LSU to this ranking is the fact that they've gotten hot. They won at Auburn, they won at Florida, and they beat Ole Miss. But let's look at those defenses. Like we've already spoke about in the show, Florida's one of the statistically worst defenses in the SEC. Auburn, not a great defense. Ole Miss's Achilles heel is a quarterback who can scramble. Hell, Auburn gave them grief the week before, and Vanderbilt even gave them a little bit of grief with it. And then LSU just capitalized. Well, that's not an Achilles. Alabama's a different animal, if you don't know, than those 3 defenses I just mentioned. That's not an Achilles heel. This is a defense that can shut down a quarterback that can run, that's not so much of a threat passing. And if Bama can shut down the run, I know they've got Keyshawn Butte, and he's kind of lit it up the last few weeks, but that's one dude. And they hadn't shown really much else outside of him. I think this is a great matchup for Alabama to do what Tennessee did. I think this is going to be a repeat of Tennessee LSU from a few weeks ago.
Well, speaking of the defense, I want to start up front. That's what I'm looking at for Alabama right now. We are going to have Jaheim Otis back and DJ Dale back. They were out against Mississippi State. Are they 100%? Or where are they in terms of their health meter right now? But they are very huge. They've been critical in the success we've had up front this year. It sucks badly that we have Justin Mbobi gone the rest of the year, because although his first few years at Alabama were kind of wasted and he kind of underperformed, this year his give a damn was turned on, and he seemed to be the driving force in that defensive line success. He definitely was an energy guy, filtering over to the other guys. Byron Young. This is a game where Byron Young, as the elder statesman, needs to step up and be a leader there. Along with Jaheim Otis, I think he is a tremendous kid at 18. He already gets it, man. And then the rest of the team. Well, not the rest of the team. The secondary is where I turn my eyes now. Eli Ricks is coming home, guys. Homecoming for Eli Ricks. And yes, we did play Mississippi State. And say what you will about Mississippi State's offense, Eli Ricks showed us that he's that dude. He literally shut down an entire side of the field. And by doing so, he also allowed other guys to be freed up. DeMarco Helms was able to go back to his true position and come down the box and be more of a thumper, kind of a hybrid between linebacker
and not the over-the-top guy.
Right. Jordan Battle was able to be free and do more instead of having to make up for everybody else's mistakes. I've said it, week in and week out. He kind of reminds me of Xavier McKinney, 2019, where he kind of had to babysit everybody and kind of overdo things because he was the only guy back there who had some sense. But now you got Brian Branch, who can now come on safety blitzes, and you can have Malachi Moore do the same thing. We haven't been able to do that much this year. We did against Mississippi State because those guys are freed up and were allowed to do what they do best. Kool-Aid each week is getting significantly better. And there are some Bama fans who still complain about him. Yeah, he has his little problems here and there, but who doesn't?
Because he's so aggressive. When you're
aggressive,
aggressive every now and then.
I want an aggressive guy. Kool-Aid is a great DB.
Yes.
Against Tennessee, nobody.
And the game is designed to help the offense. So, you got to take your chances when you can.
Absolutely.
And to your point on Ricks, though, man, everybody expects he's a transfer from LSU. So everybody expects these kids to just be Play-Doh and Nick Saban to mold them in by day one. And it doesn't just work like that. He had to win that locker room over. He had to learn a new playbook. He had to learn the Alabama way. And by God, man, we talked about it last week. As great as Will Anderson is, he's not really that asshole. We kind of see a little bit of that asshole in Ricks. This is his night. We're going to Death Valley to that team.
Coming out party for Ricks. Yeah, last week was the warm-up, or 2 weeks ago.
Rick stands up on that bench and says, "Look, you son of a bitches.
Let me have Butte.
This is why I came to Alabama to beat these guys." This might be his Nick Saban speech where he's the one that becomes that dude. I expect that tonight. I expect Alabama to be Alabama. Dude, nobody's talking about that. Let's get to this point. Nobody's talking about Alabama. We're talking about Tennessee. We're talking about Ohio State. We're talking about
Bama's
Georgia.
a side note.
Bama's forgotten about. Nick Saban's forgotten about. Crimson Tide's over.
Traditionally, that's a dangerous line of thinking.
You write off them boys in Tuscaloosa. You're playing.
What's the opposite of rat poison?
Yeah. Yes.
The yummy kind.
Look,
that's Coach Saban put it. The yummy kind.
Years, the rat poison's done flipped the switch now, and I do not want to be the team that gets a fucking motivated chip on their shoulder, Alabama, ever.
With a week to prepare.
Yeah.
No, listen, and I'm not saying that Mississippi State game was the measuring stick for Eli Ricks. However, he can show you best case scenario how good they can be with him. Hey, from an energy standpoint, what he was able to filter over to those other guys is absolutely huge.
He had to go from playing base defense 85% of the time to having to know a playbook. That's tough, guys. Like, look at Toto last year. Have you guys watched the progression of that guy getting better? Because nobody starts at middle linebacker for Alabama in their first year in the system ever. And he did. So we saw a lot of chinks in that armor because of that, right? And now he's kind of starting to feel it out. He's a much more solid player. Now, he's not that run stopper we're used to. I understand the criticism.
But he's not high-power McClain, but he's good.
He's the kind of guy that can stop Brock Bowers, and that's what we'll need if we ever get to that. Hopefully we get to revenge Tennessee, but
Hey, how can we like the porn photos in this feed if they don't?
Yeah, who's the porn person? Can we just go ahead and kill them out?
They show up every week.
Block user.
That means that we've actually arrived.
You know you've made it when you start getting porn spam. Y'all need to check out 2 Feet if you're into that sex music.
Wow. Now let's flip it to the offensive side of the ball. Listen, guys, Bryce Young is arguably the best player in the nation. Although if you ask any analyst, they won't say that right now. They're pushing Hendon Hooker and C.J. Stroud and Blake Corum and whoever else they can think of. They're completely forgetting about Bryce Young, even though his numbers are actually on track with where he was this time last year. Listen, he is a wizard from Hogwarts. He can make some magic happen. However, he's Superman. But guys, every now and then, Superman needs help from the Justice League. So when I mean by the Justice League, we need the wide receivers.
Comic book humor coming in hot.
Yeah, love it. We need the wide receivers to finally have their coming out party. Guys, we're 8-9 games in. We're still having discussions about the wide receivers. Why? The other thing is, Bill O'Brien, I need to see some ingenuity. Coach Saban actually spoke about this in a recent press conferences. Basically, this stuff ain't working. We need creativity. We got to make it happen now. So,
too much talent to be
listen, backyard football, as good as Bryce Young is not going to be your answer every week. And I'm sorry, if you go into Baton Rouge with backyard football and you're expecting to come away with a win, you're going to get sadly mistaken. So we need to see some creativity this week. And if the elder statesmen in the wide receiver group, like Jermaine Burton, aren't getting it done, quit making him your primary receiver. Use some of this young talent, man. Look, Isaiah Bond is that dude. He's got that speed to take off the top of the defense. Kobe Prentice is another great dude. And Ja'Cory Brooks is probably the most consistent guy in the receiver.
There's the guy that's going to be the Heisman winner when he's
why isn't Ja'Cory Brooks, the primary receiver in this offense? And hey, here's another thing I want to add, and then I'll turn it over to you guys. I'm going to file a missing persons report for Cameron Latou because his production has dropped tremendously. This is a game where we need to have him as another option for Bryce. Take some pressure off of Bryce. Get some things going over the middle with Cameron Latou.
Y'all like to put
instead of running verticals, guys. Instead of running all verticals and that crazy 4-yard behind the line of scrimmage wide receiver throw.
Well, but I'm going to go back to your Heisman comment real quick because, I mean, anybody who wasn't a Vol fan, who was a kind of a objective observer watching the Alabama-Tennessee game would be stupid to think that Bryce Young wasn't kind of the star of the quarterback show, the way he was getting pressured, running around and making all those amazing plays. Hooker's stepping back, throwing dimes. That happens, right? But when you're looking for flash, Johnny Manziel style shit, I mean, Bryce was all over it. If they kicked the field goal in that game and won that game, this guy's all over the news, right? But it's a 1 field goal difference between who you're looking at on that. It was about who won the game, not who looked prettier in that one. Now, given Hooker drop back, threw beautiful balls, nothing taken away from him. But Bryce had to work his ass off against that D to get the ball down the field because of Bill.
Yeah, hey, and Hooker is usually a hooker is good with ball control.
You got a better Hooker joke every week, dude. I love it.
But guys, I am curious to hear your thoughts on what you need to see from Bill O'Brien this week. Michael, we hadn't talked to you live in 2-3 weeks, and I really hadn't heard your thoughts. And Pettey, I want you to follow up after he gives his dissertation because I want somebody other than me to comment on O'Brien.
I'm gonna give the carrot before I give the stick. Okay. There was a moment in that Tennessee game that Bill O'Brien took over the game, and if it hadn't been for that drive that took 5, 6, 7 minutes for us to score and let our defense get their shit back together, we would have lost by 30. I'm not going to lie to you. Bill O'Brien had one drive in that game that was a masterpiece, okay? Outside of that, that dude's fucking terrible and boring and awful and like what is he thinking? At the end of the Tennessee game, okay, when you've got 45 seconds left on the clock, your field goal kicker's in field goal range, and you throw the ball 3 times when the other team's got a timeout or 2 in the pocket. Why don't you just run it to the middle like anybody in the history of football would have done? Like Bill O'Brien, God, I wish he'd be Auburn's coach. The
end. Pretty hard to follow that up, Pettey, but yeah, man. What are your thoughts? What do you need to see from Bill O'Brien in this game for Alabama to come away with the victory?
Look, LSU's defense has some talent in the front 7, but they're gettable deep. He needs to get creative with Gibbs. He needs to use Gibbs. Gibbs is obviously
him.
Use Gibbs. He's your Alvin Kamara. He is every bit as advertised. Use the kid. And I mean, you've got to see, like you said, where's Letu? You've got to see some receivers step up, Brooks, because this is the game where they can. I don't know, man. I'm such a crux on this. Bill's just unimaginative.
Unfortunately, he is, man. And I talked to my friend who is a diehard Penn State guy. Shout out to my Penn State friend if he's watching out there. And when we hired Bill O'Brien, he was kind of just like, Bill was fine or whatever, but that's kind of a lame hire for Bama.
I watched
underwhelming.
Vanilla.
Bryce Young is one of the things you talk about what a magician he is his eyes down the field. He's always got his eyes down the field. He's always seeing the play. It's one of the best. And I go back to the LSU Ole Miss game and the LSU Florida game where their secondary, there was a play where if Dart hits Mingo over the middle, that game's a completely different projection. Ole Miss goes up by 3 touchdowns. I don't know if LSU comes back, so it looks different. On the flip side, against Anthony Richardson, who's not the greatest passing quarterback, he was able to work some on that secondary and get up. As talented as they are on the front seven, they can get out of their alignments. They can get out of lanes, and that's where Bryce on the move can really hurt you. So just keep Bryce moving, keep your eyes downfield, keep attacking them deep. And I think we are going to see that. I don't really – what I'm expecting is as much as y'all get on Bill, I think he's going to take advantage of where you can on this LSU defense, and that's good,
sometimes when things aren't working, it takes a little bit of time to kind of fix it. And can you do that in 3 days of practice between 2 games? I am just hoping. And Bill, look, last year I saw a couple times when you flashed a little bit of innovation and I was like, holy shit, this isn't fair, right? This is great. But it was just flashes. Maybe you spent these last 2 weeks figuring it out and figuring out a way to throw to an open guy. I'm so tired of Bryce having to throw to people with that much space. I mean, come on. Lane Kiffin can get a freaking fullback open. Why don't you figure some of that out? Watch a little Ole Miss tape.
And that is the frustrating thing. But look, man, I don't mean to un-X's and O's it, but I think LSU's a little bit of a mirage. I do think they caught lightning in a bottle with Ole Miss falling apart and their stadium coming alive. They beat a bad Auburn team and a bad Florida team. So freaking what? The last good team they played, like Tennessee, smacked them in the face. I don't know, man. I think, again, like I said earlier when I got excited, Alabama is not getting talked about. They're kind of on the outside looking in, and that's when Alabama's the most dangerous.
Yes, Kathleen. Exactly. This isn't the charity drive.
The Coach Saban home for wayward coaches.
Harson's headed to Tuscaloosa now.
Harson's been knocking on the door for 2 weeks, and they won't let him.
Hey, but back to Gump Dumpster's comment here. If Dalcourt starts today,
first off, name of the year. He just took motherfucker Jones out for best name in the chat.
Gump Dumpster. That is fabulous. Screen naming.
Congratulations. Gump Dumpster, you have won today.
We'll send you a swag bag that contains 1 sticker.
It says pushes are for pushies.
But to Gump Dumpster's point, if Dalcourt starts today, we will not have a running game. I completely agree. And I've been saying it every week, and I don't want to be a broken record. First of all, like others in this chat here have been saying the entire way, we need to establish the run. We've got some dudes in that backfield. We're 4 deep. Utilize them. But in order for them to be properly utilized, you've got to put Seth McLaughlin in. He is that dude who's going to hit you in the mouth. He's going to get to that next level. Reminds us of another famous center for Alabama, Landon Dickerson. May not be the height, the size of Landon, but he's got that
just pure
fight.
Meanness. Jesus.
Yeah, the meanness. He's got that nasty. And then what he does filters over to everybody around him. He makes everybody else around him better. So, yeah, for us to have running success, especially against highly touted BJ Olorari and Ali Gay, Seth is your guy if you want to have any kind of hint of a running game today. But, yeah, this is a game where we got to be balanced. So get the running game going.
I'm with you. So I've got a question here. We're about to come into predictions, right? We're about to give our scores. Let's drop a little note from our sponsor here really quick. If you've got a small business or a large business, you need marketing, or you're trying to grow your business, make sure you reach out to our friends over at Workspace Solutions. All right, who's going to start the picks today, guys?
Hey, I started last time, so I'll throw this to Pettey first.
You want me to start since I'm the Rebel Bama?
That's right.
Since
Nobody
you're
knows it today 'cause you're Crimsonette, bro.
the Crimsonette here
Crimsonette.
in our panel.
I'm a rebel at heart. So we have not much love for the coon asses that smell like corn dogs on the bayous.
Fair.
And on days when we played this team, my dad would like to start with a cheer. And that cheer would go something like this. Purple shirts and yellow breeches. Go to hell, you sons of bitches. With that said, I think Alabama wins 41-17. Roll Tide.
Woo!
Roll Tide.
Roll
And
Tide
before we
that.
let the
Tigers.
I don't say mine for last. I'm the biggest homer on the history of the world. This is not objective. This is through my fucking crimson glasses. And I thought 41-17 was going to be crimson glasses, honestly. So now I've got to adjust it. I'm on 42-16 Bama Roll fucking Tide. Justin.
Holy
You're like, the
jeez.
price is right. $1. $1.
He's still my scorer, bro.
Hey, can we even go player of the game on both sides of the ball? We have time for that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. I'm going to give my prediction. It's not going to be as rousing as what
I guarantee
brought in or what you brought in, but
if you
I
ever
think
watch
Alabama
the White
wins 41-31.
So average score between us, 41.33 for Bama.
All right.
All right.
I like it, man. 10-point win. That doesn't cover, Justin. I don't like it.
Don't like that, Justin.
Sorry.
Winners win.
Can retract.
All right, so who's those players of the game you're talking about?
Great teams cover. Here comes the White Sox Hawk moment. I guarantee we're about to get Frank Thomas, and here it comes. If you ever watch the White Sox, they would always do the pick to click. One dude always picked Frank Thomas. I bet we're about to get the Frank Thomas pick.
Oh my God!
Who you got, Justin?
Offensive side of the ball. I gotta go with Jahmyr Gibbs. If you get him involved and you find ways to utilize his talent, then great things are going to happen for Alabama. On the defensive side of the ball,
Time out. I'm gonna go defense first, so he can't steal it. Eli Ricks, player of the game.
Bastards. Y'all some
I knew you were in my head.
Drug ripping bastards on this show.
Actually, I wasn't in your head, sir.
Oh,
defensive side of the ball. Gonna go with Jaheim Otis. I think he wrecks shop up front, and he allows the other guys to benefit from that behind him, and is able to shut down Jaden Daniels.
Nice, dude. I love it. We need somebody to plug the middle. So if that's the case, buddy, I'm with you. I do like Ricks, though. I think he's going to ball out today. This is going to be his coming out party. An interception, maybe a fumble, touchdown, something like that. We're going to see big play from him because his family's there.
Offensive side of the ball. You didn't say your offensive out.
I'm going deep on the ledge here, and I'm going with Bryce Young and Will Anderson.
Oh, shocker. I thought you were going to say Riker.
Well, you took Ricks. I wanted Ricks because I'm all about – I think he's going to be – I think this is the night where Ricks kind of gets pumped up.
Let's hope it's Riker. Let's hope he hits all his kicks.
We got some folks in the chat who are calling for Tyler Harrell to show up. And
God, I would love to see that.
That's a pick to click. I like that.
And the thing is, talking about wide receivers, I actually was debating on whether or not to pick JoJo Earl in this one because I just had this feeling as each week progresses, he's starting to get a little bit better. Yeah. They just need to look his way a little bit more.
Hey man, that's not a bad one, Justin. I kind of like the JoJo Earl sleeper pick because what did I say earlier? This is a game where you can get LSU over the top. Bryce Young is one of the best damn quarterbacks. He's a fucking Heisman winner. This could be Earl's coming out party tonight. I like that. I'm going to go with JoJo Earl.
I like that too, and I like Isaiah Bond is a good idea here too because he's also been another guy that's been stepping up. But look, when it comes to receivers, I'm all over 7. I think
no doubt.
Should be our primary
Hey, can we run some jet sweeps with Isaiah Bond, please?
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. That's
too innovative for Bob. That involves like some motion and some stuff that's just too much. Roll Tide, right? All right, is that it, guys? Are we about to close this thing down?
I think that's all I got.
Well, talk to us about your stuff, Justin. Let everybody know why you're the famous guy.
I'm the famous guy? No, hardly ever. Listen, I just get to hang out with a bunch of guys that have done that thing. I'm the host of the Bama Standard podcast, which is every Tuesday night on Touchdown Alabama Magazine's YouTube channel, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to tell you right now, we're not your typical Alabama show. We're not politically correct. We don't handhold, And if you come in there expecting sugarcoating, you're going to get your feelings hurt. We resemble locker room at its finest. We joke on each other, but we also give the hard truth, and we have legends there to share their experiences and give their hard takes on everything. So definitely check that out. Also, I am one of the hosts of the Touchdown Alabama Magazine post-game show immediately following the game. Mike McCoy is my co-host, former Alabama wide receiver, 2009 national champion, and one of the best strength conditioning coaches in the country. You definitely want to check that out. I also have a post-game show with Coach Smook, and that's usually on Sunday night. So I'm always doing something. If you're watching on this channel, this is your first time, please hit that like and subscribe button. It helps us out tremendously. And major shout out to all the people who have helped our channel grow. Without you, it doesn't happen. So thank you so much. So yeah, I'm going to turn it over to you guys and let y'all plug what you got.
Hey, Pettey, I usually do the week 0 stuff. How about you throw it out this week?
I did it last week, but I'll do it again. I'm pretty good. I got practice. Hey, man, check us out at week0sports.com. Like Michael said, we do a podcast. We've kind of missed the last few weeks. Sorry, we've been some slack asses, but we're going to get back going this week. Also, every week we sling out some articles. Michael will sling out from time to time a very good breakdown of an individual game against the spread. And I do a weekly column. It's Pettey's Ponderings, but it's got a different title each week. But, man, I am really proud of the article. Check it out. It's at week0sports.com. This week it's called the show, Let the Show Begin, which is kind of based around this big week that is. I get kind of snarky in my writing. So if you've watched the show, you know my smart aleckness kind of bleeds into that. But check it out. I really like it. Spend a lot of damn time on it. Michael spends a lot of time making sure it looks pretty. And again, we'll be back. We're always with Justin on the show on Saturdays. We're kind of on a roll now. We'll be back next week, I'm sure, because we've got Ole Miss Bama. I'll be dressed a little different. But yeah, check us out at week0sports.com. We got a lot of content. We're adding more all the time.
When you get to week0sports.com, you'll see at the very top, there's a list of buttons that'll take you to your favorite podcast app. And we are coming back this week, Thursday morning. It'll be in your box. Like I said, our pick 3 is absolutely in fuego. So you guys are going to want to see that, guys. We're winning people money all year, so make sure you're there. And Justin, you got one last thing for us before we get
out. And God, I should be ashamed of myself. I forgot to announce the guest for next week on the Bama Standard. We've been talking about
why Sean Alexander, by the way. Seriously. Dude, you realize on that screen you had Alexander, the guy talking, Bo Scarborough, who scares the shit out of me, was the third best running back in that screen.
Yeah.
Third best running back in that screen. That's nuts.
How do I top Sean Alexander with Jalen Hurts?
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
Oh, I was about to say, are you kidding me?
No, that was answering your question. Is how you top that if we got Hurts.
Okay. That's not what you're doing. Gotcha.
No,
I got in the
offseason. Quick disclaimer: in the offseason, Jalen as well as King Henry will be coming aboard. So,
oh man,
be on lookout for that. But this Tuesday, we talked about the wide receivers a lot here. And we're going to have an Alabama wide receiver, former Alabama wide receiver, who actually held records for a long time and may still have some records. DJ Hall will be on Tuesday night. So, Bama Nation, you hadn't heard from him in quite some time. It's time to hear from him and what he thinks is going on with the wide receiver room right now. He did tell me here recently that he actually was contacted by Nick Saban and the coaching staff about coming down there and speaking to this group, because he said he was always great at getting reactions and responses from the team when he was there. So he was asked to come and give his thoughts and motivating speeches, I guess, to try to get this group going.
Interesting.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we're going to hear about
DJ Hall. One fact about DJ Hall, we played in Starkville during my college tenure, and we lost that game, and I left, kind of pissed off, went directly to the Copper Top in downtown Tuscaloosa, and DJ Hall somehow beat me there.
He's faster than you, Michael. Duh.
No question.
He went afoot while I was taking the car.
He's faster. He's a SEC.
But yeah, that's all I got.
Hey, hey, man, good stuff, Bama fans. You want to get a little of the behind the scenes of what's going on with Saban and former players talking? That's some good shit right there, man.
Excellent. Well, look, guys, we've had a great time with you. We appreciate the huge turnout and all the fun in the comments. We look forward to seeing you next week. Again, don't forget Tuesday night. Don't forget Thursday morning. And we'll see you next Saturday. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Mariah Carey. Yay, Mariah. That's fun.